When the distress call went out, the council expected mercy, pity, maybe reinforcements. What they got was a polite human smile, and an entire fleet that history would later classify under apocalyptic mistake. Alien Distress Signal Plus Buildup. Introduction of the humans, especially Captain Elias Ward, polite but deadly tactician. Witty, suspenseful interactions between aliens and humans. Subtle foreshadowing of the darker truth. When the distress call went out, the council expected pity, maybe a token patrol fleet, perhaps a promise of supplies. What arrived instead was a smiling human captain and a fleet that history would later file under uncontrollable disaster in orbit. The emergency beacon had pulsed through the void for hours, carrying one desperate message. "This is the Valari Coalition. Our defenses are breaking. Any species within range, we beg for aid. Coordinates attached. Please respond." Council chambers buzzed with tension. Representatives from 20 species argued in shifting voices. Some feared the invaders' advance, others worried about political humiliation. And then someone whispered the option no one wanted to say aloud. "Humans." The word hung like ash over the chamber. Councillor Tren, a scaled reptilian with ridges down his snout, hissed in protest. "You cannot be serious. Deathworlders are unpredictable. They smile while plotting slaughter." Across the hall, the elder Thalan ambassador, his crystalline carapace shimmering, gave a rasping chuckle. "Perhaps slaughter is what you require. Or did you invite the enemy to tea?" Arguments rose, but desperation trumped dignity. The signal was rebroadcast on wideband, humans included. 2 days later, the void above Valari Prime rippled. Not one ship, but an entire flotilla tore through real space, cruisers, carriers, escorts bristling with weapon mounts. They moved like wolves emerging from a fog, formation neat, guns silent but ready. The Valari defense staff gawked from the orbital station. No one expected humans to respond so quickly, much less with so many ships. Then came the transmission. A man appeared on their holoscreens, seated casually in a command chair. His uniform was neat but unadorned, his voice calm, his smile annoyingly warm. "Good afternoon, Valari Coalition," he said. "Captain Elias Ward, United Terran Fleet. I understand you called for help. So," his eyes crinkled with amusement, "what's on fire?" His politeness only sharpened the unease. Councillor Tren bristled on the feed. "You arrive armed to the teeth. That does not look like a relief force. It looks like an invasion." Ward inclined his head, tone even. "Oh no, Councillor. If it were an invasion, you wouldn't still have control of this frequency." That single sentence chilled the chamber. Humans were offered docking permission with hesitation. Ward declined politely. "Best we stay in orbit. Faster response time, fewer misunderstandings." "You wouldn't want misunderstandings." The way he said it made everyone want fewer misunderstandings. A briefing was arranged. Alien representatives joined via hologram, projecting into the human flagship's conference deck. Ward greeted them with disarming hospitality. "Welcome aboard the Resolute. Please make yourselves comfortable. If anyone needs coffee, let me know, we carry a frankly irresponsible amount." The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. They had studied human caffeine rituals. The idea that these predators treated a chemical stimulant as casual refreshment was unsettling. Ambassador Vera, a silver-feathered avian, cleared her throat. "Captain Ward? Our people are under attack by the Hishari Dominion. We requested aid, not escalation. Will you be restrained in your involvement?" Ward steepled his fingers. "Restrained is such a flexible word. Do you mean restrained enough that your civilians survive, or restrained enough that your enemy does?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Tren slammed his clawed hand against the console. "This is exactly the problem with humans. You twist words into knives." Ward's smile didn't falter. "Only when the situation already involves blades, Counselor. Tell me, do you want your skies cleared or shall we head home? No hard feelings." The Valari delegation froze. They needed these humans. Even if every instinct screamed they would regret it. That night, orbital sensors tracked the first wave of Hishari warships breaching the system edge. Jagged, spined cruisers surged forward like predators scenting blood. Valari defenses scrambled. Ward received the tactical feed, studied it with mild interest, then tapped his comms. Fleet, test pattern Gamma. Remember, clean work, no loose ends. Human ships shifted formation with frightening synchronicity. Valari commanders gasped. The humans had predicted the enemy's approach vectors perfectly. The first exchange was short, brutal. The Hishari lost 2 cruisers in under a minute, ambushed in a crossfire humans had set before they even arrived. From the Valari station, Ambassador Vera whispered, feathers shivering. They knew where the enemy would be. Ward's voice cut smoothly over comms. Practice makes perfect, Ambassador. Back home we call it wargaming. Helps us sleep better knowing the bad guys never will. After the battle, alien representatives demanded answers. Tren's scales flushed red. You lured them into that slaughter. That was no defense, it was a trap. Ward sipped from a steaming mug, entirely unfazed. Correct. Defense is just offense spelled differently, Counselor. Don't worry, we'll set more. You make war into a game. Ward's smile thinned just enough to unsettle. No. We make games into war. Easier that way. The chamber went silent. Later, in private, Ambassador Vera confronted him. Captain, I must ask. Why answer our call at all? Other species turned away. Ward studied her carefully, then offered a smile too precise to be casual. Because you asked? And humans have a habit of answering. But don't mistake that for charity. Every call has its price. She felt her feathers tighten. What price? Ward rose from his chair, hands folded behind his back, gaze drifting toward the stars beyond the viewport. His voice, still polite, held the weight of something darker. That, he said softly, depends on how much regret you can live with. The Valari had wanted saviors. Instead, orbit now bristled with the most dangerous ally they could imagine, smiling predators who drank coffee while plotting wars like chess matches. And for the first time, the coalition began to wonder if their distress call had truly been answered. Or intercepted. The Hishari Dominion did not retreat after the first clash. If anything, they doubled their forces. Dozens of warships cut into Valari space like teeth biting into flesh. Their spined hulls glimmered red, engines hot, weapons primed. Valari commanders panicked, voices overlapping in the comnet. They had lost half their navy in the opening week of invasion. What remained was fractured and limping. Ward listened in, calm as a man skimming a newspaper on a Sunday morning. He leaned back in his chair, swirling coffee in one hand while the tactical display bloomed before him. Looks like they're overconfident now, he said casually. Good. Overconfidence is cheaper than ammunition. Lieutenant Harris, his second, chuckled from the next console. Bet on them walking straight into pattern Gamma again, sir? Not quite, Ward replied, eyes narrowing. Gamblers don't win twice with the same trick. We'll adjust. The briefing. Representatives from the coalition joined again via hololink. Their tones were sharper this time, suspicion leaking into every word. Ambassador Vera's feathers rippled with unease. Your fleet acts with terrifying precision, Captain. Almost as though you were waiting for this invasion. Ward smiled politely. We weren't waiting. We just don't enjoy improvising when lives are at stake. Think of it as rehearsal. Counselor Tren hissed. You set rehearse traps in our system? Ward set his mug down with deliberate care. Counselor, if someone breaks into your home, do you want me fumbling for the light switch, or knowing exactly where the gun is? The chamber fell silent. None could answer without admitting the obvious. They needed these wolves at their door. Human preparations. Valari tactical officers were invited, reluctantly, onto the Resolute's command deck to observe. What they witnessed only deepened their dread. Humans didn't bark orders, they traded jokes. A gunnery officer hummed a tune while adjusting firing arcs. Pilots compared snack stashes before launch. Marines in drop armor swapped old Earth sports insults, laughing like they weren't about to fight a fleet twice their size. One Valari whispered to another, "They treat war like play." Ward overheard and smiled faintly. "Not play. Practice. We just prefer to practice until the enemy stops moving." The first major skirmish. The Hishari fleet burned into system space, confident of their numbers. They fanned into aggressive formation, targeting the crippled Valari station as bait. Ward's fleet didn't charge. Instead, the humans fell back, shifting into loose clusters that looked disorganized. To the Valari, it was chaos. To Ward, it was geometry. The Hishari pursued, convinced they had the humans on the run. "Patience," Ward murmured, eyes tracking vectors. "A wolf pack doesn't bite too soon. You let the prey think it has teeth." The Hishari closed distance. That was when the humans struck. Hidden mines, small asteroids seeded with stealth charges, detonated as the enemy entered the kill zone. Explosions tore through their front line, staggering cruisers into disarray. Before the aliens could regroup, human ships swept around the flank with clinical precision, weapons erupting in coordinated salvos. Fighters peeled through gaps like razors. The Valari command deck erupted in horrified awe. They anticipated the exact pursuit vector." Ward's voice remained steady. "We didn't anticipate. We encouraged. Same principle as fishing, really. Dangle the lure, reel them in." The Hishari flagship attempted to retreat. Ward gave a single nod. Human bombers crippled its engines within seconds. In less than 20 minutes, a fleet twice the size of the humans was broken. Aftermath. Valari representatives were stunned. To them, the humans had not fought a battle, they had orchestrated a massacre. Ambassador Vera's voice trembled through the hololink. You baited them deliberately. Even the casualties were arranged." Ward's tone was calm, almost soothing. "Casualties are like debts. Best to pay them on your own terms." Trent slammed a claw against the table. "You're monsters!" Ward finally allowed a chuckle, dry and cold. "No, Counselor. Monsters don't plan. Monsters lash out. We, on the other hand, plan until the monster wishes it never left its cave." The Valari officers exchanged nervous glances. They had summoned humans for help. But what stood in orbit wasn't a rescue. It was a masterclass in predation. The seeds of doubt. Later, in a private channel, Ambassador Vera tried again. "Captain, your methods, they terrify my people. Do you enjoy this?" Ward raised his brows, leaning closer to the hollow feed. His smile was faint but sharp. "Ambassador, do you enjoy breathing? Because for us, planning wars is just that. Necessary. Habitual. Comforting, even. Humanity didn't get this far by waiting to be eaten." She hesitated. "And when the enemy is gone?" Ward's answer was too soft for comfort. "There's always another enemy. The trick is making sure it's never you." Rumors among the coalition. In Valari corridors, whispers spread. Some claimed the humans had baited the Hishari into the system deliberately. Others argued humans had stockpiled weapons nearby long before the distress call. Fear spread faster than relief. Even Valari soldiers admitted quietly, "We asked for help. What we got feels more like occupation." Ward's quiet reflection. Back aboard the Resolute, Ward stood before the viewport, watching wreckage drift across the stars. His officers worked behind him, still cracking jokes, still smiling. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. "Funny thing about answering distress calls. You never know what doors it opens." Lieutenant Harris looked over. "Doors, sir?" Ward's smile returned, polite and inscrutable. "Every call is an invitation. And we never arrive without bringing gifts." His gaze lingered on Valari Prime below, shining and vulnerable. The Valari coalition had begged for salvation. They had received it, swift, decisive, merciless. But as debris rained in orbit and human ships prowled the void like wolves, one truth settled heavily in alien hearts. They had asked for help from Deathworlders. And already, regret had begun to bloom. The wreckage of the Hishari fleet still drifted across Valari skies when the second wave arrived. Not dozens of ships this time, hundreds. Carriers, destroyers, armored flagships. A force built not for conquest, but for annihilation. Valari officers panicked. Entire council chambers erupted in shouting, voices clashing across open channels. One phrase echoed above all. "We cannot withstand this. Not even with the humans." Ward listened to the transmission in silence, hands folded behind his back. When it ended, he turned to his staff with a calm smile. "Good," he said. "At least they sent enough to make this interesting." Alien doubts. The Valari Council demanded another briefing. Hollow avatars of their representatives filled the Resolute's command deck once again. Ambassador Vera's feathers trembled. "Captain Ward, this is suicide. Their numbers dwarf yours tenfold. Even you cannot hold against that." Ward tilted his head. "You're right. We can't hold. Which is why we won't." Confused silence answered him. Tren's voice cracked like a whip. "Then you admit it, you cannot save us!" Ward leaned forward, resting his chin on his clasped hands. His eyes glittered with quiet amusement. "Save you? Counselor, I'm not here to save you. I'm here to break the Hishari so completely they never come near your borders again. If that happens to keep you alive in the process, well, consider it a bonus." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Human planning. Ward outlined his operation with unnerving precision. He spoke of luring the enemy deeper into the system, drawing them into narrow gravity wells, and cutting supply lines they didn't even know were exposed. To Valari ears, it sounded less like defense and more like hunting. Ambassador Vera asked carefully, "Captain, how do you anticipate their movements so exactly?" Ward smiled faintly. "You study your prey until you know what they'll do before they do it. Call it instinct. The battle begins." When the Hishari armada surged in, the humans fell back deliberately, letting the enemy chase them toward the inner system. Valari commanders begged them to stand and fight. Ward ignored every plea. His fleet darted through asteroid fields with impossible precision, leaving behind cloaked charges, automated drones, and misleading combursts. The Hishari swallowed the bait every time, charging deeper, bleeding ships at every choke point. To the Valari watching, it was horrifying. To the humans executing it, it looked disturbingly routine. One pilot's voice crackled over the comms. "Reminds me of rush hour traffic in Chicago. Only fewer horns." Another replied, laughing, "Speak for yourself, I've got missiles for horns." The Valari translators struggled to process the humor. Predators joking while surrounded by prey, that was not normal. Breaking the armada. The climax came when Ward ordered his ships to feign retreat toward Valari Prime. The Hishari believed victory was at hand. Their flagship pushed forward, overextending, eager for the kill. That was when Ward's trap closed. From behind the moon's shadow, a hidden division of Terran cruisers decloaked. Their weapons lit the void, tearing through the Hishari's exposed core. At the same moment, preceded mines detonated behind the enemy, severing their retreat. Within minutes, what had been an unstoppable armada was reduced to chaos. Ships burned. Formations shattered. Ward watched the tactical feed, expression calm, sipping his coffee as though none of it surprised him. "Never chase a retreating wolf," he murmured. "You'll only find the rest of the pack." Alien horror. On the Valari station, officers stood in stunned silence. They had expected desperate defense, maybe a miracle survival. Instead, they witnessed annihilation crafted with surgical cruelty. Tren's voice broke the silence. "This is not aid. This is extermination." Vera's feathers drooped as she whispered, "They fight as though they've done this 1,000 times before." Another alien muttered, "Perhaps they have." Confrontation. After the battle, the council demanded explanation. Ambassador Vera confronted Ward directly. "Captain, you could have destroyed fewer ships, driven them back with restraint. Instead, you set traps within traps. You crushed them completely." Ward's response was measured, almost gentle. Ambassador, mercy is wasted on enemies who plan to burn your cities. If you wound a predator, it returns hungrier. If you break it, it never returns at all. Trent snarled. You came here not to defend, but to display your power. Admit it! Ward's smile never faltered. Display? Counselor, if we wanted a display, we'd have filmed it in slow motion and sold tickets. Laughter rippled across the human crew. The aliens did not laugh. Rumors and fear. Whispers grew across the coalition. Were humans truly answering a distress call, or had they engineered the situation to establish dominance? Their uncanny timing, their hidden reserves, their effortless strategy, none of it felt accidental. Valari citizens began to murmur. Perhaps the Hishari invasion was terrible, but inviting humans may prove worse. A private revelation. That evening, Ward stood alone in his quarters, gazing at the starfield. Lieutenant Harris entered quietly. Hell of a show today, sir. Ward nodded. The point was never just to win, Harris. It was to make sure the Hishari, and everyone watching, understand what happens when humans arrive. Harris hesitated. You think the Valari are starting to suspect? Ward's smile was faint, dangerous. Let them. Fear is a more reliable ally than gratitude. He turned back to the stars, voice soft but sharp as glass. They called for help. What they don't realize is, we came for something else entirely. The Valari coalition slept uneasy that night. Above their world, the human fleet prowled the void like a silent pack of wolves. The enemy had been broken, yes. But so had the illusion of safety. They had asked for help from Deathworlders, and each passing hour, regret pressed heavier against their hearts. The battlefield hung silent. Smoke drifted across the void, veiling shattered fleets like the ghost of a storm. Alien hulls broke apart, venting fire and frozen corpses. Human ships, black and scarred, glided through the wreckage with the calm of predators that had fed well. Captain Elias Ward stood on the command deck of the Iron Requiem, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the display. Around him, crew moved briskly but quietly, their voices low. Victory had been decisive, but no one celebrated. Deathworlders didn't cheer when the killing was done, they planned for the next fight. Report, Ward said, voice even. Enemy fleets scattered, sir, replied Lieutenant Rana. Her eyes were rimmed with fatigue, but her tone carried pride. Our losses, heavy, but within expectation. 78 ships destroyed. 135 damaged, most reparable. Civilian convoys remain intact. Ward gave a slow nod. The humans had come to answer an SOS, and they had answered with fire. Yet the weight of those lost hung over him. Every ship destroyed was 1,000 voices silenced, 1,000 families waiting for news that would break them. Still, this was survival, the only coin humanity had ever known. A quiet chime broke the silence. Communications lit up with alien signals, pleas, demands, and stunned disbelief. Ward motioned for them to be filtered, and a single channel was opened. The face of High Commander Draxer of the Alari Dominion appeared, his scaled brow furrowed in fury and dread. Behind him, aides rushed about, panic etched into their movements. You, humans, Draxer spat. You were summoned to assist. Not to bring annihilation. Do you understand what you've done? You've provoked the collective into declaring eternal war. They will never stop. None of us will survive now. Ward tilted his head, calm as stone. With respect, Commander, the collective declared war the moment they preyed on the helpless. We merely gave them reason to regret it. Draxer bared his teeth. Regret? You've slaughtered their fleets, yes, but do you think they'll crawl away? They'll come in numbers beyond counting. They'll burn your Earth, as they've burned countless others. Ward's lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. Then let them come. The channel cut abruptly as the aliens severed communication. Silence lingered for a beat, heavy with the unspoken. Lieutenant Rana exhaled slowly. Sir, do you think he's right? That this will bring everything down on us? Ward finally turned, his gaze sweeping the crew. He is right. The collective will rally. But fear is a weapon, and today we placed it in their hearts. They now know what it means to rouse Deathworlders. They know the cost. The words steadied the room. Crew who moments before were haunted by fatigue now held themselves a little straighter. Humanity had survived too much to wither under threats. Yet the battle wasn't over. The navigation officer broke in. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting movement at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts, vectoring in fast. Too organized for scavengers. Ward's jaw tightened. The collective wasted no time. A hush spread. Some officers instinctively gripped their consoles harder, as though bracing for impact. Ward gave the order without hesitation. Signal the fleet. All ships regroup and rearm. No scattering. We stand as one. Hours later, the Deathworlders' fleet drifted in formation near the ruined colonies they had sworn to protect. Hulls patched as best as they could be in the short time, wounded ships shielded by stronger ones. The incoming signatures resolved into a massive force, bigger than the first, bristling with warships forged for extermination. They came in black waves, blotting out the stars. Ward stood at the helm, posture unyielding. They think we're broken, he said quietly. They think we'll retreat. His tactical officer, Commander Velez, gave a grim chuckle. They clearly haven't done their homework. The collective hailed them. The hollow screen lit up with the cold visage of an insectoid overseer, its mandibles clacking with disdain. Humans, it hissed. You trespass in a war not yours. Withdraw, and perhaps we'll let your kind live long enough to crawl back to your poisonous rock. Resist, and you'll be swept into extinction. Ward studied the creature as though examining a puzzle. His reply came smooth, polite, but edged with iron. Extinction is a word often spoken to humans. Yet we remain. Tell me, Overseer, when your fleets are ash, whose extinction will we be discussing? The Overseer screeched in fury, cutting the channel. The collective fleet surged forward. The second battle was nothing like the first. This was no ambush, no desperate defense. This was war in its rawest form, fleet against fleet, thousands of guns vomiting fire into the void. The iron requiem trembled with each impact absorbed by its shields. Ward barked orders with surgical precision, his voice cutting through the chaos like steel. Vanguard ships, break the center line! Carrier wings, flanking strike, cut their engines before they regroup! Requiem, on my mark, broadside cannons, full salvo! The humans fought with a ferocity born not of desperation, but of defiance. Where alien fleets wavered at the sight of their losses, humans pushed harder. Every ship destroyed only seemed to sharpen their resolve. Yet the price was high. Ships burned, crews screamed over broken comms, and death hung heavy in the black. The collective threw everything at them, relentless, endless. Hours bled into eternity. By the time the fighting lulled, space was once again littered with wreckage. Both sides had bled deeply. But the collective had broken first. Ward leaned forward, eyes narrowing as their retreat began. Pursue. No mercy. Let them remember what it means to challenge us. The Deathworlders chased the fleeing fleet, hounding them until the last of their ships vanished into the dark. When silence returned, Ward finally allowed himself a breath. His crew sat slumped in their stations, drained but alive. The fleet was battered, but victorious again. Status? He asked, voice softer now. Commander Velez's reply came hoarse. We lost another 100 ships. But sir, they're running. For the first time in living memory, the collective is running. Ward nodded slowly. And they'll be back. In greater numbers. But now they know. He turned toward the bridge viewport, toward the burning debris drifting across the stars. His voice dropped into a dangerous calm. That humanity doesn't come when called. We come when challenged. And we do not leave until the war is finished. The crew absorbed the words in silence. Fear still lived in their hearts, but it was caged now, chained by something fiercer, resolve. The Deathworlders had answered the SOS. And now the galaxy would learn the cost of waking them.